Tuesday, January 28th, 2020. I'm Ron Friedman, and these are the Cryptosphere's top stories for today. Bitcoin's price surges past the $9,000 mark amid tanking markets and coronavirus fears. Self-proclaimed Satoshi Nakamoto Craig Wright talked with BLOCKTV. Don't want to miss this. And later, mainstream music distributor Ditto adopts blockchain technology. Top cryptocurrency Bitcoin crossed the $9,000 mark in recent hours, currently trading at just over that key position amid global headlines connecting the price surge to market fears of the coronavirus that's crashing traditional assets. BLOCKTV's senior correspondent Asher Westrop-Evans here with me in the studio to break this action down. Asher, thanks for joining. Now, Bitcoin kissing that $9,000 mark at this time, is it at the store of value narrative returning, or is this just Bitcoin doing what Bitcoin does?
Look, I mean, Ron, it's as we always say in these times, it's hard to link that causation and that correlation, but certainly there does seem to be that correlation playing out to a degree as mainstream equity markets are dropping amid coronavirus fears, a slowdown coming out of China, as they've stated that they're going to be closing significant factories and cities, notably Shanghai at this stage made a formal announcement saying they'll be closed till February 9th, extending out the Chinese New Year holiday that normally takes hold around this time of year. There is certainly a pullback in global markets, and we have seen Bitcoin surge. As you say, though, is it correlated? Is it causative? Hard to say at this point. Certainly, Bitcoin is proving itself well and above gold at this point, which has relatively stagnated, and it is that surge up to 9,000 is significant. That being said, if we see a sustained bout in a sort of global downturn, things could look a bit different, and whether or not this will be the cause was a question I posed earlier to strategist Joel Kruger from the LMAX Group, and he had this to say.
While the coronavirus might be a catalyst for a downturn in the market, it is not going to be the cause of what would ultimately be the downturn. We are at a point in the global economy, in this global economic cycle, where the expectation for a downturn in the global equity market is something that is quite realistic. And so while this coronavirus, if it does intensify, could trigger more downside risk, we're already looking at a situation where the global economy is heading for not the global economy, but the market economy, the financial market economy is heading for a downturn.
All right, so Asher, I mean, Joel here is talking about the wider markets and fear that the virus is just what's going to trigger a global downturn. But let's bring it back to Bitcoin. How will we actually know Bitcoin's role in all this? That, is it a hindsight thing? We'll know after the fact that yes, it's because of correlation?
Look, Joel actually put out a fascinating prospect at how we could track whether or not Bitcoin is truly serving its role as that safe haven narrative. He said by looking at the Bitcoin-ETH pairing and seeing that in a time of global crisis. His hypothesis goes that in a time of global crisis, if ETH as the sort of global computer metric that Ethereum strives for is a fundamentally innovative product. It's about that additional capital that players out there have in the market wanting to invest in. Whereas if Bitcoin truly is a safe haven, store of value asset, then in a time of downturn, it should grow. So if the disparity between those grow considerably, then that gives credence to the safe haven theory. Certainly one hypothesis out there, a very interesting one, if I do say so myself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Asher. Keep an eye on that pairing in the weeks and months to come. Next up, there are a few figures in our industry more divisive than Craig Wright. The man who claims to be Bitcoin's inventor is a lightning rod for criticism and trolling. We had a chance to have the good doctor on the channel earlier, and what he said is not likely to gain any popularity points.
I'd like to aggregate one question that came up again and again from users. The question of why we are interviewing you, why we're giving you a platform. For you, Craig, how does it feel that that is the reaction that you get from those in the community?
Should I care? You have a bunch of morons who have no idea running around saying that censorship resistant is important and then going, but don't let him talk. So no, I don't listen to idiots.
And to check out that full interview with Dr. Craig Wright, check us out on blocktv.com. It's available up there. Kelly Loeffler made a name for herself as an industry leader in the digital asset space, heading the widely anticipated backed Bitcoin futures market. She then did it again as a politician, appointed a Senate seat for the state of Georgia at the end of 2019. Now the two worlds collide with less favorable outcomes. Yona Halchauser is here with the details. Yona, some issues surrounding her possible conflict of interest?
Right, Ron. So all officials, all government officials have to file what's called a financial disclosure report, where pretty much they have to disclose all their assets to make sure that the decision making they're doing in their role as a government official doesn't conflict with the assets they have, or vice versa. Usually vice versa, that if you're holding assets and you kind of want to make some money on the table, that is a possibility. So like you mentioned, she is a former backed CEO, and more importantly, she's married to the head of ICE, which also runs the New York Stock Exchange. Now, this is being a big issue that a lot of critics are calling attention to because she has again postponed the deadline for her having to file that report until May 5th. Now, that's an issue because she's on the Senate Agriculture Committee. And what does that committee oversee? The CFTC. Mm-hmm. The CFTC oversees ICE and the New York Stock Exchange, both run by her husband.
All right, and no reasons given for that postponement?
Well, it's not out of the entire norm to be postponed, but specifically here, people are a little iffy because she is coming straight from that role as a backed CEO.
So raising some eyebrows, though, but she does have fans in the sphere that are convinced she's going to do the right thing.
Right. So there is a revolving. Whenever it comes to government and the regulators, there is a revolving door. Where people from the private sphere go to work in the public sector, and vice versa within the same sector. Mm-hmm. This is not something new. We spoke to Perianne Boring, of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, and she had this to say.
Kelly had to divest her investments in the spaces to take on the Senate appointment. But this is a pretty normal thing. I mean, for people to serve in different committees where you have a area of expertise, I would say is actually a good thing. To have somebody who has real market experience working and running and building an exchange to be involved in the regulatory considerations that Congress will be debating on the Ag Committee. This is a good thing. We don't want people on the committee that have no experience in the markets. I do believe she will absolutely do the right thing and recuse herself if there's ever a discussion where she would have a conflict of interest.
Right.
But I think the criticisms of her being appointed to that committee just really don't make sense.
As we have reported before, the Lightning Network torch is back on the move with a second iteration of the game in which a participant sends a Lightning Network transaction to other participants around the globe to test out the Level 2 technology. Now it's in its 8th day. Unfortunately, the second go-around has not been as successful as its first round last year. The torch has already been stolen 4 times by dishonest participants. As tweeted by the torch's initiator, Hodlnaut, the Lightning Network Trust Chain 2 torch just got stolen for the 4th time, and for the 4th time, the person that sent the funds to the thief has decided to keep it going out of their own pocket. Nature and team spirit have kept the effort going, but the thefts do illustrate the weakness of a trust-based system. Global digital distributor and label service company Ditto Music announced on Monday that it will be launching a new blockchain platform to streamline things like copyright, royalties, and contracts. Culture reporter Zaki Hennessy is here with the details. So Zaki, what is Ditto and what is this new Blue Box project?
Well, it's just like you said, Ron. Ditto Music is a music distribution platform that artists use to get their music out to the masses. They specifically boast a 100% return on royalties to artists for the music that they make whenever it gets played anywhere. And it's home to such artists as Ed Sheeran and Sam Smith, as well as a large user base of about 250,000 users worldwide. So they have released alongside a new publishing division, they are releasing Blue Box, which is a blockchain-based solution that they will use to keep track of all of their artist information, profiles, royalties, contracts, etc. They're essentially taking the platform that they already have, which works, and they're putting it on the blockchain and bringing that technology to the music distribution industry.
All right, now interesting development. Now we know that there are existing blockchain platforms for musicians, but most of them are kind of newer startups. In this case, it's a matter of an established industry player coming out. What do you think? The little guy is going to be under their boot?
So it's a good question, and it is important to ask. However, it seems as though this is kind of an apples and oranges situation. As of yet, it's not a zero-sum game in the blockchain industry as a whole, especially in the music and blockchain intersection. One example that comes to mind is the music publishing platform Audius, which is essentially SoundCloud but on the blockchain. It allows users to post, or artists to post their music without the fear of takedowns or copyright strikes or anything of that nature. However, because there's so much space and so much room for growth in this industry, the music blockchain industry, it seems like the two can coexist, just like CD Baby and SoundCloud are able to exist in the non-blockchain music sphere.
All right, thanks. Great analogy. Thanks, Zaki. And it's now time for Troll of the Day, and today's offering comes from notable trader Alex Kruger. In a dig at the media's tendency to reach conclusions, perhaps prematurely, Kruger tweets out, "Keep in mind that until Friday, the narrative was coronavirus pushing Bitcoin lower. It now is coronavirus pushing Bitcoin higher." Some people try very hard to create narratives. He follows that up with some sage advice from Jedi Master Yoda. Investigate we must. May the force be with you, Alex. That was Around the Block for today. Thank you for watching. For more blockchain tech and cryptocurrency news, visit us at www.blocktv.com.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.